Good evening, dear viewers, and welcome to a new episode of Medical Talk, the program that brings you expert insight into the health topics that shape our daily lives and well-being. Tonight, we address a natural stage that every woman will eventually experience, menopause, a transition that often comes with questions, physical changes, and emotional adjustments. While it marks the end of the reproductive years, it also represents a new beginning, a time to understand the body, embrace change, and focus on long-term health and balance. In today's world, women are more informed and empowered than ever before. And our goal tonight is not only to explain the medical aspects, but also to help every woman recognize that this journey is unique and entirely natural. To guide us through this important topic, we are honored to welcome Dr. Kashif Rizvi, Medical Director, Consultant, and Head of the Internal Medicine, ER, Endocrinology, and Diabetes, who will help us understand the symptoms, treatments, options, and modern approaches to managing menopause with confidence and clarity. Stay with us. You're watching Medical Talk. Welcome back. We're happy to have with us in the studio Dr. Kashif Rizvi, a Medical Director, Consultant, and the Head of Internal Medicine, the ER, Endocrinology, and Diabetes. Dr. Kashif, welcome to Medical Talk.
Thank you very much, Mohammed, and I'm grateful for you having me and the kind introduction. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our topic today is very important and it's very interesting, and it's usually not covered as much as possible in the media as well. Let's start with the basics for our viewers. If you can explain what exactly menopause and at what age does it typically occur?
Right. You know, as you said in your question, that it is important and interesting. It's actually more than that, because it's an entire shift of paradigm. Whereas women who've been looking after their families, bringing children up, while having a bleeding period every month of their life, eventually stop having that. So there is a big transition occurs, which is menopausal transition, and they go across to another side, which is the philosophical way of looking at menopause. But it has profound implications for the sufferer, because it lasts several years. It starts gradually. So it's a gradual process, averaging woman's age from 45 to 55, and in US the average age is 51. And technically we say when the lady has stopped having periods for 1 year, so there has been no period for 1 year, is when menopause is completed. So prior to that, the women start to roll into this life zone where the hormone starts to change. There is two key hormones in a woman, estrogen and progesterone. So they begin to dip down, and as a result, the periods become a bit erratic and the cycles become a bit erratic, topsy-turvy, we say. And with that, the drop of hormones signals a variety of problems, physically, emotionally, psychologically, and socially. So menopause is a journey from one side of their life to another side of their life in a nutshell.
Exactly. Now, you mentioned it's like 1 year of interruption, basically. Is it fair to say that we need to make sure that this interruption is not caused by any other diseases?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's 1 year of cessation of periods when all medical, surgical, or psychological causes have been excluded.
Yes.
Without any triggering factor. That is a prerequisite. And 1 year is a fixed time, but even after that, sometimes the woman could still become pregnant. So you need to take some precautions for a little while longer. But once the period's been interrupted for 1 year, in that zone of 45 to 55, which is very hugely variable, which we will talk about, then we will say the woman has entered menopause.
Exactly. Because a lot of women out there, they believe that when they have irregular periods, they think that they are entering the phase of menopause. And in fact, now we know that the right definition or the classification is a cessation of period for completely 1 year.
Correct.
It has to be fixed on 1 year.
Absolutely, that is correct.
And also, I want to circle back on the hormonal changes. You mentioned two very important hormones that are changing, or basically these changes take place during menopause. How do they affect the woman's body?
The two hormones that we mentioned, estrogen, which is estradiol we call it, and progesterone, is what make a woman. So in order to understand pathology, you need to understand physiology.
Yes.
Yani normal, and then you can understand abnormal. So it's very important to emphasize that menopause is not a disease. It's a process of life. Like we were toddlers, then we become adolescent, then we become adults, then we become middle-aged, and then old age. So menopause is a part of life which needs to be embraced. And here, a very important point to mention, not just by the sufferer or the one who's dealing with it, but for their partners.
Yes.
Men must understand and contribute positively towards this.
Absolutely.
It's not like one part of society suffers and the other one is not totally unaware of it. So if through this program of yours with this wide audience that you have, if we can convey that this is something that men should also get insightful about, so they can protect their wives and their sisters and their family members going through this process.
Absolutely, and need to be educated.
Need to be educated as a society,
Yeah.
because women usually suffer in silence. Just to give you an example, that over 50 years of age, almost 70% of divorces are started by women, because they cannot comprehend what is happening. As you said, the drop of estrogen has a multitude of problems, physically and emotionally. So physically, if you start literally from the head to the toe, the hair will start to thin, because the bulb of the hair will shrink. So they will notice their hair will start falling easily. And then they have this mental fog, we call it. Yani you cannot immediately answer a question. You become forgetful. Your thought process is a bit clouded. And then your eyes become dry, because all the mucous membranes are moistened by the estrogen. So you get dryness in the eyes, and then your ears, you start to get ringing around, what we call tinnitus, or your sound and vision start to behave erratically. Then because the balance is located here, you start to feel dizzy spells. In your mouth, you get dry and your taste alters. In your skin, you start to get sensations like a crawling insect, for example, and your skin becomes erratic and has acne. They start to have bursts of these, spots coming. So keep going down, your cardiovascular risk rises, the heart attack risk, because estrogen was protecting the woman from a heart attack. So it tries to match up with the men of the same age. Then you get down to the tummy. You start to assemble fat around the middle of your body. Insulin resistance ensues, and you could become like a candidate to develop diabetes, type 2 diabetes. Instead of being pear-shaped, to become apple-shaped. And then you keep further going down, you will get aches and pains and fatigue. Cramps in the muscles, not so much, but you get fatigue, and you cannot rest and recover. On top of this, if you needed it, you get these attacks of hot flushes, that suddenly you will get a hot sensation on your face and your neck, and it become red, and you will feel heat emitting from it. And you don't know what to do, so your heart will pound, you get palpitations. This is triggered more by spicy foods, etc., or caffeine. Caffeine become very sensitive for the woman. So hot flushes and this night sweats. If the hot flush happens at night, we call it night sweat. And sometimes we even have a cold sweat, because once you've been very hot, you sweat and you become cold.
Yeah.
So they alternate between these. The sleep becomes disrupted. Yeah. So there is, you can see a huge,
it's like a huge systemic changes goes in on.
Huge systemic change. It does not spare any organ of the body.
Interesting. I still have more questions for you, but we have to take a short break and watch a short report, and we'll be right back. Dear viewers, stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We're still talking in the studio to Dr. Kashif Rizvi. Dr. Kashif, before the break, we were talking about menopause and how it basically affects women. I want to ask you, because some women may experience early menopause. Is that possible?
It is possible. The usual age, as we said, is from 45 to 55, but women can have an earlier menopause due to a multitude of reasons. Could be genes, genetic history, chromosomal abnormalities are important. It almost always follows what age your mother had the menopause. So some women have what we call autoimmunity, that their own immune system attacks the ovaries. And unfortunately, sometimes you need chemotherapy, which will induce damage to the ovaries, so they will not be able to produce that estrogen and progesterone, or surgical removal of the ovaries. Yeah. So if something happens like that, you could have a menopause earlier, for sure. But then again, the same definition applies, that you haven't had the periods for 1 year with the exclusion of any identifiable cause.
But is it possible that without any causes?
Absolutely.
That, as you mentioned, because of genetics, that a woman could experience early menopause.
There is a percentage of women which have, we say idiopathic, as you know, in our fields, that the cause cannot be identified.
Yes.
So some women fall away from this 45 to 55 years rule.
So what would you say the youngest that a woman could experience, and based on your experience?
It could be in the teens and 20s even, you know.
Really?
Yes, sometimes, but usually in the 30s that it begins to fail, the ovaries. But if any unfortunate situation arises with chemotherapy, radiotherapy, or removal of the ovaries, the menopause will be immediate.
Yeah. Absolutely, because it's inevitable, because you're losing a vital organ.
Yes.
During the research of this episode, I run across in the literature, there is an association between osteoporosis and heart disease as health risk associated with menopause. Can you share with us?
I think this is a very important question, because three problems come parallel to menopause. That you get insulin resistance, insulin, which is a precursor of diabetes, high blood pressure, raised cholesterol, and ischemic heart disease. So that's one very important part. The second, estrogen protect the bones, because bones have two kinds of cells. Cells, osteoblasts, which make the cells, and osteoclasts, which break the bones. So after menopause, there is a disruption. The osteoclast activity is more, so the bone is resorbed. Now here is a very important message to your viewers, that osteoporosis is clinically silent. You don't get any pain or any discomfort. You only find it if you, God forbid, have what we call a fragility fracture, like in the lower spine or the neck of femur. So it can be easily identifiable with a DEXA scan, which is a very simple scan, DEXA scan. So osteoporosis is a histological diagnosis, not a clinical diagnosis, and it makes women very vulnerable to fractures of these vulnerable areas: the lower spine, the neck of femur, and the wrist. So we look at the bone density over there. So the ischemic heart disease risk will jump to try and match the men of the same age. The bones will become brittle, and remember, like any chronic situation, the key thing is how you went into it. So carrying yourself into the perimenopausal area or before the menopausal area, you need to be as fit as possible. So you can deal with the menopausal journey better than others.
Well prepared, basically.
Well prepared.
Okay, so now my second question is, how can a woman best manage menopausal symptoms on a daily basis?
It's not only the woman, Muhammad, it's the whole family. it's very important not to marginalize her as a sufferer, because often she will take those symptoms and try to cope with them alone. So first and foremost, the men of the house should support her.
Yes.
Secondly, on a day-to-day basis, there is emotional, there is psychological, there is physical elements. Embrace it.
Yes.
My message to the ladies is that think of it as a normal phenomenon, to embrace it. So once they have accepted it and embraced it, they will remove the psychological overlay from it as much as possible, which leads to depression and anxiety, etc. And then the physical components for the osteoporosis, make sure vitamin D is replaced, which also ensures better sleep. So you walk or do some weight training. Weight-bearing activity builds the bone, and you don't smoke, and you try to exercise for half an hour to mitigate the coming insulin resistance. So these are simple things. Because it's a physiological phenomenon, you don't want medicinal intervention unnecessarily.
Exactly. Speaking of medicinal intervention, we hear about the hormonal replacement therapy. Whom is it considered safe and effective?
This is a very, very important question. In the early 2000s, there was a very large study which was commissioned called Women's Health Initiative, where the women were given estrogen, and it was stopped only after a few months because many women had heart attacks and clots on the lungs, and the risk of many cancers increased. So people were very afraid of it. But then subsequent studies showed that if it is used properly in a small amount and in a younger woman who is less than 60 years of age and they get disabling symptoms, you get this estrogen in different shapes and form. Especially a patch is very useful, but under medical supervision. If your uterus is in place, then you must also take some progesterone, because unopposed estrogen stimulation will make you vulnerable to developing some problems. So only under medical supervision for a fixed number of time, because eventually you will have to go through the estrogen withdrawal somewhere along the line. So if you have family history of cancers of breast or uterus, if you have any risk factors for clots on the lungs or history of heart disease in very young people in your family, you should not take it.
Exactly, because that leads me to my second question. Due to these concerns, some women prefer the non-hormonal or lifestyle-based approach. What are the alternatives available today?
There is, because you know, Muhammad, there is an industry which evolves around such events, normal physiology. So you should be very careful. There is so-called what we call bioidenticals or biosimilars, which claim to be estrogen-like, and they are a bit estrogen-like. But then there is no control regulation over them. You don't know what side effects you will get. There are many herbs like black cohosh, or pink clove, or evening primrose oil. Evening primrose oil does, in some studies, make these hot flushes and symptoms better. But my message is, if you exercise, if you sleep, and if you embrace it as a normal phenomenon, you will not need any of these products. So try to stay with the medical advice, but remember, it is not a disease.
It's not a disease, and something that you can actually deal with if you know more about it before it happens. Education. Like the perimenopausal area averages 4 years. It could be as long as 8 years preceding the menopause. So it gives you plenty of opportunity and time when you start to get these hot flushes and disrupting sleep and mood swings and dryness in your private areas and things. So they're very disheartening, but there are things you can use to mitigate them. Exactly. So, and finally, what advice would you give to a woman entering menopause, and how can they prepare physically and emotionally for the stage?
My advice is that women are very strong people, emotionally and physically, and they have brought the family, they have raised the family, and they reach a point when they need to look after themselves, and they should be protected by the family at that moment in their life. So people should have sympathetic viewpoints, and they should support them, and they should encourage healthy life for them.
Dr. Sayyid Kashif Rizvi, thank you so much. I enjoyed our conversation, and I hope that our message will reach not only women, but also their entire family.
Absolutely.
Because it's a multifactorial issue, and I think everybody should need to cooperate on that one. Thank you so much for all the information that you shared with us, and hopefully we'll be able to host you again in Medical Talk.
Inshallah. Thank you very much for having me, and thank you for all your wonderful team.
Thank you so much. Dear viewers, we still have more to go. Stay with us. We'll be right back. And that brings us to the end of tonight's episode of Medical Talk. Menopause is a journey unique for every woman, and understanding it is the first step toward better, healthy, and quality of life. With proper care, early screening, and healthy habits, this stage can be embraced with comfort and confidence. Thank you for watching Medical Talk. Until we see you again, please stay safe and stay healthy.